and we're going to talk on metadata and what type of metadata can 360 leverage in business objects and in data services. Loic, if you don't mind sharing your screen.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Loic. So just a few things, before we start is we like to put, definitions. What is metadata? What is BI on BI? And what is BI on ETL? So historically, we've been only doing metadata on business objects, which is basically BI on BI because we do analytics on business objects, which is a BI solution. And now we have a new product, so it's a different product than the current 360Is, although it talks with the 360Is for business object, but we're able to do BI on ETL, meaning BI on data services. So we extract metadata and we can do analytics on that. So you guys all know, of course, data services, and so we don't need to spend too much time on that. So we'll go through that very quickly. And during the session as well, we'll be talking around how we can document this metadata, how we can catalog it, how you can analyze the usage, the non-usage, and gather all the historical information. So, okay, what does that mean in terms of where does that information come from? Okay, so today, of course, in Business Object, we extract information from the CMS, the auditor, and naturally the file store. And that enables us to do a lot of nice things around the usage and the non-usage, of course. Additionally, in data services, we're actually extracting metadata from the local repositories. All this information then is populated through Data Mart, and then we leverage that through some universes, and of course, we can do some reporting on top of these. So for data services, 360 is supporting the latest version, which is actually in 4.2. And I believe the 4.3 version of data services will be coming out in Q1, perhaps January. I don't remember the exact date. And I know there was quite a bit of a delay and causing a lot of issues with customers that wanted to go to 4.3. So in terms of data services, it's data services, if you don't mind going to the next slide, Loic. Data services is leveraging like BOBJ scheduling. And, as a result, it's very important to document, and, reporting and documenting is very limited, as in BOBJ, but actually even more in data services. So what 360 focuses on for data services is really to document as much metadata as possible within the solution. We've spoken to a lot of data services customers, and it appears, the challenge for the data services community has been that each time you want to gather and document information from a data flow, as an example, as you can see here on the screen, source, target, transform, you need actually to one by one open everything. And it's not the handiest. And here 360Is for data services is actually able to extract that metadata and then document it. And additionally, each time there's a change in a data flow, it's really cool because 360 will be able to identify the impacts without needing to open each flow. So this is very handy. You can see what's going on, you can see the changes, and you can document that. So that's extremely powerful. Common issue with data services, of course, is performances. Performance. This is very critical. So a lot of customers are asking us, hey, Loic, hey, Bruno, can you guys answer to questions like, how long did it take to load a specific source? How many rows are retrieved? How long a specific transform took? So these are answers actually we can answer and we can document. because we're able to monitor and analyze the performance bottlenecks within data flows and workflows. So here the idea, leveraging the metadata on that, is the ability to document and find all the anything that will consume time. So Loic, in terms of data services, what metadata are we able to extract? What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so in that screen, you can see exactly pretty much everything we can retrieve. So for all the people that is running data services, I'm pretty sure you know this. You have projects. You can see in your projects when you have ad hoc execution or schedule execution. Then, of course, you have your workflow, data flow. You have your source, your targets, your transformation. Inside your transformation, you can have different things. You can have query transform, you can have merge, you can have many transformation that can be helpful for you to retrieve in order to do lineage, impact analysis, and we will see that just after. So basically, everything here can be retrieved, and our solution is growing releases after releases. So this is the current status of our solution as of now. And of course, if something needs to be added, this is something we can still investigate.
Thank you very much. And tell me something. And so for 360 for data services, so how many universes do we have? How does it work in terms of the extract? So I mentioned it was going through the local repositories, and after, so
Yes.
okay, we're able to go there, but what's the architecture? How does it work?
So basically what we are providing with 360 is for data services, but this is exactly the same for business object. We have developed some universes that gathered the different metadata available. So for data services, we have one universes that grab all the data. That allows you to work with the data we extract. So the data is in a database. So we extract the data into a database, and then on top of that database, we have a universes that help you to display the information, the documentation, the usage, the scheduling information. So anything related to data services. And we have the same process for BOBJ. BOBJ has more metadata, more diversified metadata. So we have 3 universes, but it works exactly the same. We have a database where we extract all the metadata information coming from BOBJ, so from the file store, from the audit database, and also from the CMS database. We grab everything into that database. So basically, this is a data mart with your BOBJ metadata, and you have a data mart for your data services metadata. And then you can query those database with your own BI solution, name whatever you want, or you can use the power of Webby and use our universes to display the information you need. We ship with our solution pre-cane reports, over 70 Webby reports, so it helps to have a quick start. And yeah, I think with our more 10 years of experience in that area, we cover the basic need with the pre-cane report we ship with the solution. So for you, it's a quick start. Out of the box, you have many information at your disposal.
Thank you very much. So right now we're going to focus on at a very high level, but on the type of metadata that we're extracting, and we're going to try to give you examples of what we extract in business objects and then data services, and we'll try to compare it. Just let's move on in terms of cataloging metadata. So these days, everybody wants to catalog all their metadata, which makes a lot of sense because people want to have like an assessment of what they have eventually and ideally, what they're using, not using, where it is, get as many information, meaning as much metadata around what they have in their environments, because that's at the core of any BI and ETL solution. So what can you tell us about BOBJ? What can we extract there?
Yeah, so this is an example of universe catalogs. Data catalogs, the trendy word at the moment, but at the end of the day, it's just having an audit of what is there, what is out there on your BOBJ environment. So here we have an example of a pre-canned report we ship with the solution. This report lists all the objects for all your universes, and you can give more or less detail. So here, for instance, we have the object select, we have the object where cause, we have some information, but you can add more dimension if you need more. Of course, you can delete or remove some of them if you don't need them, but this is an easy way to document all the universes and all the objects among the universes that you may have. And then, of course, it's very handy. You don't have to do it manually. You can have this updated every 2 weeks, every month, regarding the different needs. So yeah, this is an easy way to document and have this data catalog with the select, the table use, etc.
And this is one of the pre-canned Webby documents, right? That we
Exactly.
have that queries against the universes that come with 360.
Exactly. So the only things you need to do when you have installed the solution is to execute an extraction of the metadata, and then you just refresh this report, and the information is displayed as is.
Thank you, and let's move on to data services. If you can, tell us about this data flow example.
Yeah, we try to have the same approach. The idea is to document what is in data services. So here you have an example for one data flow, for instance, and you can see what is the source, and then you have the detail of the different objects in the targets, and you can see if there is any transformation here, some query transformation. So at the end of the day, the idea is to have something very handy to audit and populate all the data flow, all the workflow, all the query transforms, and more you'll see after. But again, a good idea is to, okay, I want to know what I have internally in my data services, how many data flow, how many sources, how many targets. So this is something that come out of the box. Again, with data services, you just need to execute the extraction, and then you just open the report and refresh the report with your extraction. And there you go, you have all this information at your disposal.
And so on the next part, we're able to, or if you want to do an assessment, there you can leverage the metadata as well to understand how many documents you have, how large they are. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, with that solution, you can go into detail as you can go in, macro data, aggregated data. So here, this is an example of having the big picture of your business object environment. So here we have this report and by folder group. So regarding your inboxes, your root folder, so basically the public document, and then regarding the personal content, you can have this breakdown and you can see how many documents, how many instances, and how many space those elements use on your disk. So this is an example of some aggregated data we can easily retrieve, but we can also go into more detail. In that second slide, you have an example of a document, and for each document, we can document like doing a query stripping. So basically, we can tell you that this document is composed of those objects. Those objects are in the query name query one, so there is only one data provider, one query. You can see that there is one query filters, and you can see that this document have only one Webby variable, which is sales revenue piece. So you have a good idea that what is in that report, and you can even see that we have a column named used, and this column provides you an idea if your object is really used or not used in the report itself. So sometimes when you are in a hurry, you can create reports with many objects, but not all of them are really used in the end report itself. So here you can see that, for instance, the first object, quantity sold, has been used at least 4 times in the report itself. So in a graph, in a table. So it gives you a good idea if your report is well designed. Alongside having a quite detailed documentation, you can see if the design has been done properly, if you don't have useless variables, for instance, and so on.
And basically, this is essentially like a passport. So it gives you information around the document origin, words, how it's connecting, so where it went, and also, has it really been used or not? So it's extremely
Basically,
handy. Yeah.
like the fingerprints, exactly.
Yes, definitely. And customers commonly use that all the time, whether it's during a migration or not. If you've got any question, it's basically you can pull out that passport and then get a lot of information on it, and that will help you to focus your efforts on that document or not.
And you can see this document is coming from an inbox. So sometimes you are wondering if you can easily document things that are in personal folder or inboxes, because it's more complicated to do that on those kind of content. But 360 Eyes can easily document public folders, but also personal content and inboxes.
And then let's go to the second part of the metadata here. It's one thing that's very important for anybody handling BI, doing management, doing reporting, is to understand, the lineage and being able to document that. So what can you tell us here around the lineage between data services and BOBJ?
So yeah, we are going to go into detail with different example, but here this slide is to give you an overview of all the things we can retrieve from data services. So each piece of that slide is a pre-can report we ship with the solution. So we can deep dive into the project. We can document easily the workflow, the jobs, the data flow, the data stores available, etc. So this is the information we can easily retrieve. And yeah, we'll see just after how we can do an end-to-end data lineage with a few examples just afterward.
Thank you. So here, this is an impact analysis table and on a database.
Yeah, so we mentioned data analysis, end-to-end data analysis, but before doing the end-to-end, we are going to do the impact analysis on BOBJ. And then because we are able to do that, we are able to do the end-to-end, the full end-to-end data lineage through the BOBJ and data services. So in that example, what we are doing is we are identifying all the documents in BOBJ that are using a specific object SQL. So let's say you want to identify all the reports that use a specific table, column, because maybe you have a database update, or maybe you need to change the naming convention, whatever the reason. You have this report, you refresh this report, and you just have to fill as a prompt which SQL statement you want to look for. And then the report will list for you all the reports, their location, that are using at least one object using the SQL expression you mentioned in the prompts. So very powerful.
Thank you. And now this is around, we're on universe objects.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes you know what's wrong on a database, but sometimes you know only what's wrong in your universe. And so you can do it also from the universe level. So you want to know all the reports that use a specific universe, or you want to know all the reports that use a specific object among one universe, you can do it here exactly the same. And the report will list for you all the reports, their location, and in which query this object has been used. And to close the loop, we have the same for webby variables. Variables is quite sometimes, let's say, error prone, because when you update, sometimes you need to change the formulas because you may have different behavior between version or SPs. So this is a good way also to identify all the reports that use a specific variable. And you can do that assessment by the variable names or the variables values. So if you know the names, of course, you put the name and you will end up with all the reports using that variable. Or if you want to look for a specific syntax or a specific formula among your whole formula, you can do it as well. And again, the report will list for you all the report, their location, that are using those elements you are looking for.
Yeah, that's really nice. And additionally, we've got a solution called 360 View that enables you to update all the webby variables that you want.
Yeah, very powerful.
Yep, it's very handy.
So now
Well,
maybe let's talk
yeah.
about the end-to-end analysis. So now you see that we can do that on BOBJ. We can cross the information coming from BOBJ and information coming from data services. And so there is 3 ways of doing things depending on your starting point. If you want to start from a document, maybe your issue is on a Webby document and you want to know all the lineage, you can usually use our information, and from a document you can easily identify all the universes that are using for this very specific document, and from the universes then you can display all the flow, all the objects that are processed by data services to fill these universes. So this is how we can provide an end-to-end analysis. From a document, we can go to the universes, and then from the universes, we can go down to the data flow in data services.
Also to the audience, so if you want, feel free to visit our virtual booth. So we'll be actually putting a banner or a comment in the comment box where you can actually get all the presentations of today, and then get some access to documents around migrations or Wiiisdom 360 suite as well. And please feel free to ask questions in the chat box, and Loic and I will be very happy to answer to these questions. So thank you.
So I'm gonna go quick on the next 2 slides because they are exactly the same as the one before, but here the point of view, the starting point is different. So yeah, we can start from the data flow, and from the data flow we can figure it out which universes may be impacted, and at the end, of course, which Webby can be impacted. And the third one, of course, is starting from the universes. You maybe want to know which document can be impacted, and of course, at the end, you can identify which data flow is impacted, those elements. As for the rest.
Hey, Loic, remind me in 360 eyes for BOBJ, how many universes we have and how many pre-can reports do we have?
So it's roughly 70 reports. It's 3 universes and it's almost 1,000 objects. So we have 1,000 objects at your disposal to display the information you might need. So there is very technical information and very functional information. It's 1,000, almost 1,000. So it's very detailed.
Thank you very much.
And one of the other information we can grab from our 360 eyes report is the usage and the non-usage in order to perform cleanup or just to be aware of what is used and not used. And here you have a sample of one of the reports we ship, where we can document each document of your platform, and for each document we can tell you how many action has been performed and what was the last action date on this document.
Yeah, and this information is extremely handy for multiple reasons. The first one is when you do actually a migration, as Patrick mentioned earlier, realistically, a lot of your migration costs are going to be linked to the amount of content that you have. And what we find out on BOBJ environments is 60-70% of the content is not used on average, and we've actually seen recently in a health check that we did, like over 95% of the content hadn't been used. That was a very old deployment. So here the advantage is for migration, you're able to pinpoint, okay, which documents, which objects have not been used in the past 13 months. And as a result, with 360, you're able to archive these documents. And automatically, let's say if you got like 60% of documents that haven't been used in the past 13 months, the cool thing is you're able to isolate them, archive them, and only focus on the 40%. So from there, you've saved a massive amount of time. And also, when you do the testing, instead of testing 100%, because you do want to test, you're only focusing on the 40%. Additionally, that's the type of information for, we've got lots of regulated industries. It can be utilities or federal organizations, they use that type of information for document recertification, account recertification. So overall, you want to know who's not connecting, who's not using, what content is not used, because basically people that are not using, they don't need to have the access there, because that can be basically a loophole. So that's very handy on that, to be able to document on that type of information.
Yeah, you're right. Here we have the global usage, but we can have the user usage. So for each user, which document has been used or not used. So yeah, you can do that definitely easily.
And to the same level is the user connecting. So, of course here, yes, this is just one example, but you can know who connected in the past 6 months, how many times. It's like Big Brother. So.
You mentioned Big Brother, so I think this one is quite related as well. So we can easily help you to figure it out about your security, which permission between your content and your group. So again, it's still important, and even more nowadays, to make sure that the right content is seen only by the right people. So we can extract what we call a matrix security, and you can see it's just giving you the right access, just showing you what is the access provided to your user and groups. And of course, you can keep that audit and make sure that the security has been set properly, or at least as it should have been done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's very important for security purposes, definitely. In terms of performances, extracting metadata around performances is critical, again, for migration projects. In particular, if you're going to the cloud, each time anyway you do a migration project or an upgrade, the first thing that actually business users will find out is, damn it, it's a lot slower than what it used to be. And the reality is people have got no clue, and the ability to document, for example, scheduling performances is extremely important. And there you're able to deep dive in that. So what type of information can we typically extract from there, Loic?
Yeah, here you have an example of, again, a pre-can report we ship with our solution. You have quite enough detail in this one, but you can still add detail if you need more, of course. But yeah, we can extract all the scheduling and see how long it took, the destination, the error message when something failed. So basically, you can easily audit. You can, of course, add some filters. Maybe you want to see only the failure, or maybe you want to see only the recurring, to track that those recurring instances are really useful and not only adding load on your server. So yeah, this is the kind of report you can easily retrieve.
Thank you very much. Now let's go to the next one. So obviously the great thing with 360, whether it's 360 Eyes for Data Services or 360 for Business Objects, 360 Eyes for Business Objects, we're able to, as we mentioned, document metadata, but we're also able to compare that. So how does that work, Loic?
So our solution, like I explained at the beginning, we extract metadata, we store that data into a database, and then we query that database with our universes and our pre-canned document. And so what is very powerful is that we can extract many times, of course, your platform. And if you keep history of those extractions, then we can easily compare what has been modified, deleted, what has been evolving during this lapse of time. So here, this is again an example of one of the reports we ship, and in this case, this is a comparison of your universes. So you can pick one extraction, so maybe an extraction that has been made, I don't know, 6 months ago, and the current status of your platform, and you can see all the objects in that case that has been deleted, all the universes that has been, all the object that has been modified, etc. So you can easily retrieve what has been changed. So this is an example for your universes, but we can do the same for the security. Maybe you want to see if your security has been modified those last 6 months, for instance. So if you have an extraction that has been made 6 months ago and an extraction that has been executed lately, you can have this kind of information very handy as well.
And so this was in business objects, and basically we can compare basically any snapshot, any information through time, just taking snapshots at various times. And so if you go on the next slide there, we're going to talk, we basically do the same thing in data services.
Yes, exactly. So here we have two example in this slide. We have a new query transfer that wasn't existed before, and we have a new target that wasn't existed on the previous snapshot. So everything in red, of course, means it's new. So you can also easily identify what has been changed in your data flow, in your target, in your source, using this solution. So again, you have a snapshot. So you have an extraction, and then you do another extraction few weeks, few months later, and you just use one of the pre-canned reports, and you specify what kind of element you want to compare. So if you want to compare only transformation, or if you want to compare only the target, and then everything that is different will be highlighted as it's shown in this slide.
Hey, we've got 3 minutes left, so let's take one question. I see a question from Bill Schneider. So Bill wants to know, okay, can you see what user performs the delete? So can you see what user performs the delete? So
yes, so it depends, of course, because you are talking a different solution, business object, data services, for instance. In BOBJ, this is something we can easily do, of course, but it's depend on the auditor. So basically, in BOBJ, you need to
obviously,
set your auditor to track all the delete actions. And if you do so, we are able to retrieve those actions and, of course, populate a report that will list all the user that has been deleting content over time.
thank you very much, Loic. It was a pleasure to have you today.